Hello, everybody. My name is Simon Wright. I'm the Director of Programming at Japan House London, and welcome to today's special online talk, which explores the creative world of Saitō Seiichi, the Director of Panoramatics and the Artistic Director of the exhibition Making Nuno, Japanese Textile Innovation from Sudō Reiko, currently on display at Japan House. So this event, The World of Saitō Seiichi, Creative Action for the Future, is occurring on the 22nd of June, 2021, and we are delighted to be able to hold this event on this day, as it is our third anniversary since we opened in London in 2018. Please note that your microphone and webcam will be disabled for the entire duration of the event. Please do use the question and answer feature, however, to type your questions for our speaker today at any time throughout the session. You can send your question anonymously, or you can add your name. Questions will be collated by Japan House moderators, and a selection will be answered live at the end of the event. Please note that we may not be able to answer all questions during the session. Please also note that the contents of this event will be streamlined live on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn, where a recording will be archived later. So for today's event, we are broadcasting live from London and Japan. Shortly, I will be handing over to our main presenter today, Saitō Seiichi, who is joining us live from Tokyo. And following his talk, we will be able to answer some of the questions submitted by guests through the question and answer function. So please do send in your questions. So to begin the event, I would like to introduce Saitō Seiichi from Panoramatics. It is a great pleasure and privilege to have Saitō-san with us today. Hello, Saitō-san. Thank you so much for joining us. Hello, thank you. For those of you who may not know, Saitō-san was born in Kanagawa in 1975 and began his career in New York in 2000 after graduating from Columbia University with a Master of Science degree in Advanced Architectural Design. He returned to Japan upon being selected for the Echigo Tsumari Art Triennial in 2003. He produces works in the commercial art field which are three-dimensional and interactive, while also being based on the firm grounding in logical thought that he cultivated through architecture. He launched the multidisciplinary creative agency Rhizomatics in 2006. He currently serves as director of Panoramatics, which is formerly Rhizomatics Architecture. He is also vice chairman of the Good Design Award, 2018 to 2021, and the creative advisor of the 2020 Dubai Expo Japan Pavilion, and an expert for the People's Living Lab Promotion Council for Expo 2025, which will be held in Osaka, Kansai, Japan. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm looking forward to this presentation immensely, and I hope everybody as well who's viewing from home. Without further ado, over to you, Saitō-san. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, thanks for having me. Thank you, Simon, for a great introduction. So I got the little bit more than 40 minutes. But I'm gonna do the presentation, which is talk about myself, and then also talk about the Reiko Sudō exhibition at the currently open at the Japan House London. So today's topic is that, as Simon introduced me in the beginning, is that I'm gonna talk about the creative action for the future. Well, the reason why I've been saying the creative action is that, well, in Japan, I think the UK is the country of the creative thought, which is you guys invented, for example, design thinking and all that. But well, for me, the design thinking is great. But I think that what I've been doing is how I can make the action based on the thinking for the future. So I'm going to talk about the introduction of Rhizomatics and then Panoramatics, which is I'm running a team right now. And then I'm gonna jump into like why I've been really interested in like the Japanese textile, especially by Sudō-san. And then also I'm gonna talk about the expo and the other project as well. So the little introduction of Rhizomatics, well, I think the audience, you guys might know about the Rhizomatics and might not know about the Rhizomatics. So I'm going to talk about a little bit about the my company. So we've been dealing with like a lot of what it's called technology, like the projection, drones, and CGIs, and all kind of stuff. Like whatever the media we actually we have in this era, and then we've been actually utilized for the expression. Some are music video, like for example, Square Pusher, Terminal Slam, which is actually launched like last year. And then also like, as you may know, OK Go, what we've been doing like music video, and we've been doing the project too. And then also like we've been producing the contents for the Expo 2015 at the Milan, or the museum piece and exhibitions and the events and etc. etc. And then so myself is like, as I got the introduction in the beginning, is that like I've been doing a lot of like, it's not really diverse, but for me it's like the diverse enough, like the creative to the commercial to design to the art. So that's why I've been really interested in like how I can contribute to the expo, like for example 2020 Dubai, which is postponed to this year 2021, starting from October, and also 2025 Osaka Kansai Japan Expo as well. So well, if you know about the Rhizomatics, as the people talk about like why Rhizomatics now becomes like a three teams, and I'm going to briefly talk about the structure of Rhizomatics. I know, so the Rhizomatics is actually our roots, which is like the rhizome, which means like the roots, or the underground. So we start our company and team with say the art and creative, and then also the R&D. So we've been doing a lot of R&D, working with the institutions, working with like the research institution, and also like educational sectors and creative sectors and theater, etc. So which base with the Rhizomatics thought, I mean, we've been working with like variety of artists and institutions. And Panoramatics, which is the team I got. Well, I say team, but I'm only one who belong to the Panoramatics right now, because I myself is like comfortable enough to actually work by myself. So, well, the Panoramatics is actually the team working with the government or public sector. So it's like not the think tank, but it's like the think tank plus the do tank I've been actually taking care of. And the new company called Fro Prato is that the Fro Prato got actually the investment from the university I graduated. And then so we actually founded the new company to actually scale whatever we created. So the Rhizomatics is actually the R&D, and the Panoramatics is like the bird eye, like watching out like what's going on in the society. And then the Fro Prato is actually the company to actually implement it as a business. So that's the structure. So I've been really interested in like the different sector overall views. For example, like the city development or smart cities or architecture or finance or art or like the transportation materials, which is like the totally different sectors. But for me right now, this is actually the moment that like we have to connect the dots. And then, well, especially Japan, or I think it's happening everywhere in the world, but each sector is actually so detached from others. And then, for example, like the city development doesn't talk to with a, for example, ICT. Well, I've been working on the smart city project, but it doesn't really happen in Japan because the real estate people doesn't know about the IT. IT people doesn't know about the city development. So I'm taking a role in the middle to actually connect the dots. So that's happening in the government a lot. And then, so well, my question, the big question is how to connect. So that's the big question I started as a Rhizomatics, and then eventually becomes like a Panoramics. And then I really want to talk a little bit about the how technology has been changing the world. It's just a diagram to actually jump into like a real project. So long story short, which is obvious, like, it used to be like the big thing, which is like, for example, computer. It used to be like one factory becomes a computer, but becoming a slow, or small, which is like the XL becomes a L. And then, well, the L meets the other L, which is like, for example, smartphones. Like now smartphone has a music player, so phone, and also like wallets or like other purpose. And then so other function smash it together becomes a S. And then product S actually merge with the others and then becomes a small. And then, well, there are so many theory about this, but this is how the technology actually contribute to a like big things to the small. But I raise this question to, for example, like the real estate companies. So the technology theme or theory is working like this, but why we need like more skyscrapers? And then there's so many construction going on still in Japan, but we have to actually remember how the technology actually works. So and other technology actually affected like, well, this is like search engine theory. So there's so many information here and there. It's not really sorted, but the once we actually make the system, which is like the search engines or database, we actually sort it out. So we can actually search and we can radically change our knowledge. And other level is the connecting each one of the elements, which is like the let's say smart grids or which is like the IoT, talking like each one of the products talking each other and making a better or safer or energy efficient the system. But I'm back into the question: is that happening or not? So um, the I like this question is that like our era, I'm the age 45, is actually in the middle of a what analog and a digital. So I started using my internet, which is like ADSL base back in the day, which is like in the middle of 90s when I was like 20. And the internet was so slow, and then computer was like so slow. And then, but right now it becomes so fast and so many information around us. And then, so I like the question, like, what's the technology or what's the role of art and creative? And then, so I'm gonna talk a little bit about my thought. So what is the role of art creative for now? Is that I believe, we believe as a company, art creatives are door of innovation, imagination, stimulation, rise a question. So especially the art is more a lot of people think that like it's the art becomes like kind of mixture of design and creative, but the art purely have to have a philosophy or art has to rise a question. So we think the why well, this is actually the reason why like we keep the rhizomatics, even like the business wise, it's not really making a big profit, but or making the R&D or finding the new idea or the seed of innovation is actually the key for the future. And then I want to go back to the question, what is the technology? And then we believe the tech is just a tools for the creation, experience, design, and solution. So what we think that technology is like the magic, but technology is the magic. Actually, we have to actually look and each one of the technology and what they can do, like how they convert to like the things A to A dash or A to actually the B. So that's actually the background of myself. That's why I actually encounter with the Japanese textile, even like using really old technology. So I was amazed by Reiko Sudō. Or this is actually the koi exhibition, which is actually I think they're showing the piece at the Japan House right now, too. Each one of the koi is actually made by different textile from a different region in Japan. This was amazing. Like it's more than 300 piece. And then what the reason why I really into the Japanese textile is that I really want to document the process of how the Japanese textile is actually fabricated. So I actually travel with the Sudō-san with the different to the different region, different factory, meeting with a different person, different craftsmen, and then I start realizing like this is actually the technology. Well, this is a kibiso, which is actually the making sandals, but well, I'm gonna skip a little bit. Well, if you go to this is at the Fukui. This is actually the knitting machine. But for example, like this machine is actually made in beginning of 19th century. A beginning of 19th century. It's like 1895 or like some of the tech, like some of this machine is actually made by Toyota or Nissan, which is right now becomes a big company for the car. But the origin of a tech is that really pure and really analog, but it's still going on. And then I film maybe like 5, 6 region with Sudō-san and they're filming to document how they actually create the fabrics and then why, for example, like this people is actually in Shiga, why they're actually based in Shiga. There's so many relationship with the environment, like for example, the forest or waters or peoples or communities and so forth. So while I start filming, I've been doing this for like maybe 8 years, and I start raising the question. I really want to bring this dynamics to somewhere else. For example, like when we did the koi exhibition at the new museum in Japan, but we couldn't really exhibit like some of the methodology of creating the textiles. So, for example, like including the exhibition at the Japan House, I start thinking like how I can actually bring this dynamics, like including sounds or like the people's hands or crafts and analog, everything to the museum. So that's why I came up with the idea of actually a Nuno exhibitions. So this is actually the photo which we created at the chat in Hong Kong. And my theme is like textile by media and interpretation, and then kehai, which is like kehai is like the implying existence of a process. So, well, usually like the textile exhibition is like, just hanging the textiles, or making beautiful just a glass case textile the piece. But what I did that is that I did want to show the process of how the people actually make this textile. It doesn't change for ages. And then also there are so many technologies. Some are analog, some are like the chemical-ish, like emerging ideas, which Sudō-san actually invented. And then so this is actually the the textile piece, but we project it on like how the people actually making this textile. For example, like glue it, making layers, and then they wash it, and then becomes a one beautiful textile with a Japanese paper. For example, other one is that like how they actually putting the silk gluing, and then they put the different fabric together, and then once they actually putting the heat, it becomes a different shape. That was like the magic. So a lot of people actually start asking me, I've been dealing with like new technology, and then why you're actually right now like dealing with like old technology, but I don't really distinguish like old technology, new technology. It's a technology to technology. So that's why I start shifting something, like not really like chasing the new technologies, like projections or like holographic or all that. Right now I'm more into like hybrid, but not analog, and the high tech. So let me introduce like some of the work of I do, which is based on experience design and structure architecture. Again, like the more experience design is like the more creative, but the structure architecture is that like how I make the structure with the government, like funding structures, or the making a structure to actually they make the think tank and then do tanks. And the one project I did like last year, this is actually the art exhibition outside, which is called Mind Trail, which is held last year, October 3rd to November 15th in Nara. Nara is actually the prefecture adjacent to Kyoto. And then Nara is not really like highly tourism-wise. It's the cover with forest and the beautiful village, and then some of the village is actually the less people, just like the old people. So it's good and bad, but I was amazed by this environment. The reason why I got this project is that because of the COVID-19, this prefecture, especially what we call Okuyamato, which is like northern Nara, and then they're actually making economy with the tourism, even like the tourism is so less compared to Kyoto. And then our not the lockdown, but it's a lockdown-ish. The people doesn't really allow to go over the border of a prefecture. It's that start happening at the beginning of April, and then the April for the Okuyamato is really important seasons because of the cherry blossom. Usually like thousand people actually came and they stayed. They actually use a lot of facilities, and but it doesn't happen last year. So the Nara prefecture, the government actually asked me, do you have any solution for that happening in fall seasons? And then some of the area in Okuyama is really famous for a koyo, which is like the leaf color changing in fall, but not all. So that's why I make a art event in Okuyamato. As you may see, it's beautiful geography and beautiful forest, and then also there's so many beautiful shrine. It's it's actually more than Kyoto. I highly recommend, if you can actually travel to Japan, I highly recommend to go to Nara. And then so I come up with like the theme, which is walk, because the people start walking while the COVID, because people have to stay at home, and including me, I don't go to the office. And then I start actually walking around the home and start realizing, oh, there is actually the shrine, or there's actually the Buddha, or there's actually the little shop or coffee shop around my neighbor. And then so that's why I and then also like the avoiding physical actually gathering with the people. So I choose like not in the museum but outside becomes actually the venue. And then so including shrine, including small shop, including forest becomes a venue. And then people have to walk for at least 3 hours at the one area. So I got the 3 areas. And then so people have to actually walk more than 10 hours to actually experience like 3 area. And then fall was actually the COVID wise, it's a better environment compared to the spring. So people stay at the village, and then they actually experience like for 2 days. And then I put a lot of programs like the small libraries, and then I asked like a lot of artists to actually get together, because a lot of Trienna or Vienna and art exhibition is canceled. So the artists actually glad to actually get the project. And so we got more or less like a 20 artists, and we exhibit the piece at the forest, or the river, or shrine, and also some of the like hilltop or the park, and everywhere. And then what my goal for this project is that like, for I actually install a lot of art piece in the beginning of the trail, but people start realizing at the end, people start seeing like, oh, the nature itself is actually the art piece. It's like the small leaf, or even like abandoned forest becomes actually what you can actually see as an art piece. So yeah, so we deal with like the village, and then so this is actually the message to the artist. So I briefed to the artist, and I said like, don't cover it, but visit, make your art as a lens. So I try ask the artist to make the lens. So through their art piece, the audience will trade a trader, which is like a walker, actually seeing the nature as an art piece. So this is an example of a Yoshino, which is like a more or less like 5 kilometer long, because I think up and down. And some people walk like 3 hours. Some people with kids walk like 8 hours. So this is really a amazing experience I actually made. But the thing is, I present this in the end of July, and then I held this event at the beginning of October, which means usually like a train Vienna, like the trainer is like, well, you have to be, well, you can prepare for the art event for like 3 years, but this art event is actually we prepare only in 3 months, and well, we assign artists, and we talk to the government, we talk to the local people, local community to actually get the permission. And then we make all the creative, including like visuals, maps, and everything. And then we made a concept like white walking or white art. And then, but in the end, I think that's like what the COVID actually changed our world, but in a bad way. But because of the COVID, people actually got the demand to go outside or to get together and then to put the power together. So amazingly, it becomes like the amazing, great community. So we install different art piece, like some of the pieces as a light, and some of the piece in the shrine, and some of the piece is a sculpture, which is actually made by the local materials. And some this artist actually lived in the forest for 2 weeks, and the poets were through the trail, like with some of the radio, so you can actually hear the radio while you're trading. And some artists actually made art piece, which is like the lifelong art piece. So you actually capture photo and you upload it, and you actually just make the one slice per people. So well, you have to have 1,000 people to make the one clock. So eventually we got another offer this year. So we're gonna have this Mind Trail events this year too. So well, lucky enough, like if you have any opportunity to actually come over to Japan, well, we're gonna have this event from the beginning of October to the end of November. So the next case is a Dubai Expo, Japanese Pavilion as a creative advisor. So the Dubai Expo was supposed to be happening last year, but it's postponed to this year because of COVID. And then, well, I work as a creative advisor, which is actually something new. And then, as I mentioned, like I worked for the government to make the theater piece at the Milan Expo 2015. But I realized that like the people in the government, which is good, well, it's actually did better than I expected, but they don't have any kind of knowledge to distinguish which is a better creative or which is a better art or which is a better designs. So well, I start actually working with the government to make the first concept of Japanese pavilion at the Dubai Expo, and then I strongly recommend to the government, say, like you have to have a creative advisor, otherwise you can't really distinguish like which color is better or which architect is better. And otherwise, like people, I mean, I'm not really saying the bad things to the old people, but the usual government people start assigning, like, for example, their friends or the companies or big companies or like etc. So they can't really make the decision based on the design a kind of sector sort. So the theme of a Japanese pavilion is where the idea meets. So what I try to do is I try to connect the dots, as I mentioned in the beginning, like where is a problem and where is a solution. If there is any like, if this solution and the problem detached, like why don't we actually connect the dots and then make the solution? If we need a funding, like maybe we can find the venture capitals or other investors to actually make that realize. So that was the concept. So the logo visual design, and this is actually the themes that like I created too. Usually like, well, it's a competition, so that the a lot of like the artists or graphic design actually submit all those. But I started working with a design institution to help to promote, and then we got so many great the graphic design, which is like the criteria wise, like we try to select a younger designer, well, because the expo is a great step for them. So I choose Masuda-san's design, and then also the architecture too, like the architects. And then, so I actually defer how the UK actually create the pavilion, because usually like UK pavilion is something really interesting, and then also like the kind of funky in a way. And then that express like how the company or the country itself or culture actually reflect. So I start saying to the government that like we have to make the competitions. Usually they don't really have the competition of the architects, but I really want to have a different option, and then choose like one at the light a design. So we choose Yuko Nagayama. She's really well known, but she's not really international enough. But so Yuko-san is actually making a great context, a connecting the different culture of a Dubai and also the Japan. So this is actually the CGI, but this is actually the real. It's almost same. So she translate the kind of really a cultural patterns of UAE to the Japanese, the kind of textile, the matrix size like designs, and then she installed to the facade. So it's like the facade itself is actually the fabric, and then inside is like second story building. And right now we are working on actually the contents of the exhibitions. And then also something new is actually the costumes. This has a lot of story behind it. Um, so the usually like the global events like Expo or Olympics, um, the other countries like I think the UK or US or has usually worked with like the well-known designer, because it's not just not only the well-known, but it's like the designer uh, themselves is like understanding their local cultures. And there's so many fashion designer which is like so like the worldwide well-known. Like for example, in Japan, it's like the Comme des Garçons, Reiko Kubo or Yoshi Yamamoto. But there actually a story that last the Olympics, the costume is actually designed by the stores. Well, I don't know, like you understand that, but like it's designed by the design team in a department store. Well, the department store itself is great, but they're not the right person to actually design the costumes. So this time for the Dubai Expo, so we got the sponsor by Tore, which is like the fabric textile big company. And then we start asking them to actually working with the new designer, like young designer, which is this time what we got the chance to actually work with a Kunihiko Morinaga. He is running the brand called Aldearage, which is he got the focus in Paris collection, all that, because of like, this is actually the different effect. Like this is a photo with light, but this is a photo without light. But if you actually shine them, different texture is actually appearing. So this is a kind of new tech he been actually dealing with. So, well, this is a costume for the people working at the Japan Pavilion, and he got this porter beautiful porch, and also the shoes for working with a A6. So this is something like the power of design that, like, he actually changed, like the architects or graphic designer, and then also the costume designer. And then we are right now working with like the motion graphic designers or artists to make the better Japanese pavilion. So this is something really natural for the UK people, but it's not really natural for Japan. So again, like my role is like how I can connect the dots. So still doing for the Expo 2025, the same thing. But my role is not the creative advisor. Or now I become a creator. It's called the PLL Creator, People's Living Lab. I'm going to explain about the PLL. So this is actually the CGI of the venue, and then this is actually the master plan that we publish. We put in the public at the end of last year. And then, so this is the venue designed by Fujimoto, which is like the really well-known Japanese architects. And then this actually, well, as you see, like there's big link. What his idea is like collecting all the woods from different region in Japan, and then make this gigantic links. And then the reason why, well, we actually have experience like having the expo, several different types of expo, but one big one is like 1970, a Osaka expo. But this time it's not just Osaka, but also the Kansai. The reason why is that Osaka is like this venue, which is a Umeshima, and Kansai is this prefecture. So, but the definition of the expo is actually not just Osaka or Kansai; it's actually the Japan itself. But we are focusing on Osaka and Kansai, and then so main venue going to be this Umeshima, but this is actually the one big assignment, like how we can actually connect the dots between, like, for me, this main venue is like an index, so people can come in and they see an experience of those, but they learn about, well, for example, like the woods, and then people start realizing, oh, this woods is from Nara, so you can travel to Nara, and then you can actually experience a totally different thing in Nara. And then, so this is a project structure. So the concept of the scheme, like the entire expo structure, is a People's Living Lab. And then, so inside a People's Living Lab, it's the virtual expo or official events or pavilion for official partners, including UK potentially. And then also there is like Team Expo, which is like, well, we actually collect the team or company or institution, whoever interested in joining the Expo 2025. And the meaning of a PLL is a People's Living Lab. It's a co-creation, and then the expo, this expo theme is actually the SDGs. So we gonna deal with the really big theme like SDGs, but to actually attack that problem, like we have to co-create. So everything about to connect the dots. And then right now we announced like 8 producer to make the scene pavilion. Some are, I think you might know, Fukuoka-san, Kawamori-san, he's a cartoon writer, animators, and Fukuoka-san is a biologist. And then Kawase-san is actually the filmmaker. She got really like the World Award. Koyama-san is a broadcast writer and script writer. Ishiguro-san, you might know, he is a making a humanoid, totally same with like his appearance. And Nakajima-san is a musician, mathematician, and a STEAM educator. And Ochiya Yoichi is a media artist, and then also the Miyata-kun is a professor of Keio. Well, he's in the medical sectors. So they're making like each one of the producer gonna make the scene pavilion, and then well, we're gonna have a different venues. The one is Immersive, which is like a real venue, and another one is a virtual Immersive, which is like a digital twinish, like the real reflect to the virtual, so you can actually get into the Japanese pavilion or like entire venue like without physically going. And then also like Steam Pavilion or Japan Pavilion, like it's going to be hybrid, become the DO plus virtual. And I'm taking care of the Cyber Expo. The reason why I put the tentative is that like we still discussing about whether we should create the Cyber Expo or not. But the reason why I think we need the Cyber Expo is that like the expo becomes kind of like the contemporary expo becomes a kind of theme park. But I try to change a lot of expo, and an expo should be the chance to actually decide something. Like for example, for the SDGs, like we have to make actions. So that's why like I put the sub theme for the Cyber Expo is action for lives, like communication, creation, sharing, matching. So if you have idea and also the problem, like why don't we actually match? Like maybe you're using SNS or social network, or that. And then if we go over the problem of language or problem of different genders or like really inclusive, like how we can actually change the word. So that's actually the assignment of the Cyber Expo, which is still under talking. So maybe we can announce like maybe beginning of next year about like, well, we might change the name itself too, but we try to actually make something new for the Expo 2025, because this is going to be the first Expo, which is after COVID, designing the new expo, defining a new expo. So this is going to be the last slide. So hopefully like you can understand a little bit about why I'm keep saying like creative action or art actions than the design thinking. So we've been thinking a lot, like under the COVID too. So this is actually if you have any skills or knowledge, like this is actually the time to actually make the actions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Saitō-san. I'm about to come back, I think, I hope.
Yep.
Yes, there I am eventually. Thank you so much. Thank you for that amazing insight into those projects. How superb. We have a few questions coming through already. If you wouldn't mind, let's see. We'll go from the first ones that came through, I should think. I think you answered a little bit, but maybe we can expand a bit. How does your background in architecture inform your projects with panoramatics, such as the Okuyama-to Mind Trail and the work on the expos?
Okay, that's a good question. Like the this is actually the late to the question, like why you are saying architecture instead of the architects. Well, I study architecture, but it's sad enough like I don't have any good skill about the becomes the architects. So well, the reason why I keep saying like architecture is that the things I learned from the architecture, the education is that how I can make the systems instead of like the building itself. So, well, the Mind Trail or the World Expo is like all about the architecture. So, well, that's I actually teaching at the architecture school right now. The architects can make the building or cities, but also like the architect can actually design the system itself. Yeah.
Okay.
Is that answering the questions? Yeah.
Thank you very much. We have one here that you touched on as well. I mean, and the fact that we are speaking now, you in Tokyo, me in London, over Zoom, because of the COVID-19 pandemic. One question here is, do you think the COVID-19 pandemic will have a long-term impact on how art museums and art festivals, such as the Okuyamato Mind Museum, can be realized, and how people can interact with and experience art and culture? Has this informed your plans for the work?
Yeah, well, this is the last year was really a chaotic, but we learned a lot. Well, there's so many companies or like the art exhibitions or like music lives try to switch to the virtual online, but we actually checked internally like how many projects we have in the virtual like museum project, and then last year was like maybe 5, but this year was like none. And then what we realized is that the people will experience all the virtuals, but the people start comparing like, well, which is better, like the virtual or real? And then people start distinguishing or realizing like how value or how great that real experience is. So I think the virtual, again, like this is like actually the technology theory, like as I mentioned, the technology is the tools. So, well, if you feel light with the physical experience, I think people start going to the physical experience. So that's why I think it's there's so many impacts to the experience or this industry, but well, people had the COVID-19 give us an option. Like if you experience like remotely, yes, but if you want to have like a physical experience, like yes. So, but it used to be just the physical experience, but the COVID-19 eventually gave us the option to make the virtual, yeah, like this, like today.
Absolutely. And I have to reiterate, and I have to say that at our exhibition here in Japan House, the physical exhibition, we have devoted one room to your films, and your films are proving so popular. But it's the way of, it's the physical experience of being able to watch films in a space and create an atmosphere. I remember you said it has to be very loud, yes? So we've in order for people to experience it. Thank you. We have another question here. It's about sustainability. How important is sustainability in your projects? And what happens to expo projects once the expo itself is over?
That's a good question. So the sustainability is actually big for me right now. Well, for example, like, I got the vice chair of a good design award right now. It becomes like 3 years. But when I got the offer from the institution to actually make the board becomes a vice president, I decide myself to whatever I can repair, I repair by myself. So including the bikes. Right now, I'm leading into the car paint. So I start making the car paints by myself. I got all the gears, and then I start painting my neighbor's cars to fix all those scratches. And then so that level of sustainability, but I'm not really I've been really doing the research about like how sustainable society works. But if you go radical, I think people don't really follow the path. So I try find the right kind of steps to become the sustainable. So I apply this methodology to the expo itself. And then, so if we go radical, like, well, you have to make the cradle to create the architecture, that people say, no, we can't do it. But why don't we recycle this columns or this part or this woods, or make the ecosystem from like, woods from like the 10 kilometers away from here to utilize that wood to this architecture. That level of the sustainability, I mean, like realistic sustainability, I try to install that I explode itself. And then the question about how the expo will remain when it's over, it's a good question. We are still discussing about that, but so that's a bad behavior of expo. That usually like the events, including expo, when it's over, there's so many trash. Like you have to demolish it. Well, you can't really demand it. You can't really transport. So that's a big headache. Like how we can actually solve. But for me, this is like my personal opinion. Like it seems like there's so many funding or so many ideas or so many, that kind of the power actually get it together in Osaka. I try to keep the expo like physical as possible, not really demolishing it all. That's my personal opinion.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I mean, sustainability is a big part of Nuno's themes as well in the exhibition, and that comes through very much through your art direction as well. Thank you very much. We have someone asking for your advice here. This is from Matteo. Do you have any advice for someone who is trying to move from commercial exhibitions to more cultural and immersive exhibitions?
Well, that looks really easy, but I know Matteo-san, how hard it is. So this is like the using left brain or right brain, left brain. So, but once you start doing the research about how the culture event is doing, which is actually not really like, not really it's economy driven as well, like even the culture exhibition. So I say, for example, like a student came up to me like, well, how can I do the culture event director? And then I say, first of all, you have to experience like commercial based exhibitions, because otherwise you can't really learn how to make the exhibitions or the events and how to make the teams and all that. And once maybe Matteo-san already know about the commercial exhibitions, and this is actually your switch. And then you start finding what's your point of view, like philosophy. And then I think once you switched on, like you can make the culture exhibition. Or I know it sounds easy, but it's so hard. But you just have to keep trying to think like, how can you contribute to the society?
That's a good point, isn't it? It needs value beyond commercial value. Yes, it's the value contribution to society is a brilliant way of saying it. Thank you.
Yeah.
We're almost running out of time, but I have one last question here, just one last one. Thank you so much for an awe-inspiring talk. It is an honor to learn about your work. This is from one of our viewers. What are the challenges or thoughts when creating exhibitions which celebrate craft and natural materials in a visual sense without being able to physically experience the physical experience of touch?
Question two. Well, what I've been doing, like including Nuno exhibition at the Japan House, is that not only
Hello, sorry, I don't know if we can hear you. Saitō-san, I believe we lost your sound.
It's like what I've been actually experiencing. Can you hear?
I have a feeling that we lost, due to technical conditions, I think I wasn't able to hear most of your answer, I'm afraid. And I'm not sure, I can just hear the very end. I'm not sure if that was the same for anybody else. I'm not sure.
Sorry, I think that my earphone is the battery is over, so that's why.
Oh, I see. I mean, maybe could you just repeat very briefly that last question?
Okay, so and I say, like, design just is not only the final products, but the design means like the process too. So if you're designing like any exhibitions, like visually or virtually or physically, like please do the research and then also please learn about the process, and then you amaze for sure, and then you try to find a way to actually bring that dynamics to somewhere else in the media.
Fantastic, thank you. And in fact, it was process which really drew me to the exhibition, the fact that it was showing how things, or even, and I really liked your mention earlier in your presentation about kehai, about this, the idea that there is you're implying an existence of process through what I thought it was brilliant. Fantastic way of showing exhibitions. Saitō-san, that's all we have time for, I'm afraid. Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure and a privilege for us all to be able to hear what you've got in store coming up, especially in Osaka in 2025. Thank you very much to the audience who've joined us today, and everybody will receive a feedback questionnaire by email. Please do fill it in, as it will help us continue to make these events in the future. Just before we leave, we can share maybe what we have at Japan House. The current exhibition is Making Nuno, Japanese textile innovation from Sudō Reiko, which runs until the 11th of July. Of course, Saitō-san, you are the art director for that. Please do come along if you're able to see that at Japan House. We also are showing the short films which you made, Saitō-san, here, and they are extremely interesting, and we've got such great feedback about these as well. You should be very proud of them. I hope you will be making more in the future. They are superb. Thank you so much. We also have a series of gallery talks, which are happening 27th of May, 1st of July, and please book online. And we also have a giveaway for those of you until the 27th of June who visit the Japan House London website. You can enter a prize draw. Thank you so much. Saitō-san, it's been wonderful. Thank you so much for staying up with us. And we hope to see you soon in London, in person, next time.
Yep.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Goodbye. Thank you very much.